When bad thing happens to the good people. This is a book by Kushner. And through this book, we're going to try to understand the insights. And this is Kushner's book is a reflection of his own experience. Is a reflection of his own experience from his personal strategy. And that is I could say this experience or this insight or the summary of a book is it is a practical books, what he experienced from his angles. Now, before starting the review of this book, it is very essential we could ask the very basic questions in our mind. And what is the basic questions? The basic questions we ask to our mind: why good people suffers? Why do good people suffering? When we try to find out the suffering, especially for the people who lives the moral and the good life we believe or they believe, always suffering or the life tragedy, maybe the natural calamity is always for them. And this is a very age-old question. So Harold Kushner tried to address the questions, examine the questions, though his approach is very empathetic approach. The book itself is a very reflective book, and he strives. He gives the answers in a very comfort, in a very love and compassionate way. He does not blame on the God, but he tries to finding out the meaning of a life through his own experiment, not experiment, but through his own reflection. Let's share. I would like to share this insight with only 4 heart of the books, or we could say the core of these books. I will going to share with this 4 lessons from these books also. Now, just I mentioned his reflection is from his personal tragedy. This is Aaron is name of his son. Unfortunately, he lost his son in very genetic, rare genetic disorder. Name of the disease itself I mentioned is a progeria. Progeria is a genetic illness or genetic disorder where the aging is very fast, rapid aging we could say. Unfortunately, he lost his son. After lost his son, he questions to his mind. Maybe definitely he's tried to address the questions. The first question is fairness of life. Second question is the faithfulness of a God. And third question is why, reasons behind the human suffering. Human sufferings may be the natural calamity, maybe the genetic disorder, maybe the hardship. The good people are suffering. And this is the Kushner's quote I would like to share with this sufferings also. Now, age-old questions. If God is so powerful, all powerful and loving, why do suffering exist? And he tried to find out the answers of these questions, very age-old questions. The reason behind why suffering is there, if you try to answer these questions, we get the very traditional question. It is the suffering for the particular person, for the particular people. It is due to the punishment for his sinners. This is very theological explanation. And the beauty of the Harold Kushner is not to answer the question in these passions. His job is not to look towards the God in different angle. Always for him, God is the not indifferent. God is not cruel. God is a compassionate. He offers the love. It offers the kindness to the people. But how? But how the kindness to the people? What are the reasons? Now, to finding the answers of these questions through the why will not solve the problems. But the finding the meaning in a pain, though pain is not, we could not explain, or it is the unjustification to explain the reason behind the pain, but to finding the meaning of the pain is the Harold Kushner's the way to understand the suffering for the good people, to understand the pain, to understand the meaning behind the pain. If you understand it, God gives the strength, God gives the tools to cope with such type of the suffering. That is the core of these books also. Now, what are the takeaway point or key themes of this book? First key themes of this book: tragedy is not the punishment. If the suffering is there, hardship is there, stress is there, or kind of the illness is there, it is not the punishment of the God, but he clearly mentioned it is a randomness of life. It is the consequences of the natural order. It is the consequences of the nature law. Therefore, we don't blame on the God only. The God is more powerful. It is just the randomness of a life. Therefore, first takeaway point is suffering is not the punishment, not the punishment for the sin. Now, second takeaway point, what is the God's role in suffering? God's role in suffering, God, it is clearly mentions the quote which you, if you go read it very, Harold Kushner mentions the quote in his book. God may not prevent the calamity, but he gives us the tool to survive it. Therefore, God's role in suffering is not to control everything, but offers the strength, offers the comfort, offers the love in such a fashion to help us to endure in our the calamity time, in our the natural disaster time also. Therefore, two takeaway point from his books, and I love to share this two takeaway point. First one, suffering is not the punishment. This is a very good thing. And second point, God's role in suffering. God's role in suffering is not to control, but God's role in suffering to compensate. God's role in suffering to offer something where the human being can have a strength to fight against this type of the sufferings also. Now, the third takeaway point, the power of compensation and the community. Now, in case of the suffering, in case of a strain, healing comes from the, not to answer the question just I mentioned, so why this suffering offered to the good people, but Harold Kushner's believes on emphasize the presence of such individuals who are in his life or for that moment who suffers a lot. Therefore, compensation of the people, or we could say the supportive relationship or having the good relationship with the peoples and be with the people itself is a healing process. Therefore, healing and to find the meaning in a pain is the part or is the third takeaway point. Now, fourth point, faith redefined. Now, faith redefining, just as I mentioned, faith is not to get the answers of the suffering. Faith is the one thing we have to believe on someone which is beyond the oneself, which is greater than the oneself, and that is build up, and that gives the resilience, and that gives the meaning to the life also. And this is very beautiful quote he mentioned. The question is not why bad things happen to the good people, but how we respond when they do things. These are the fourth point Harold Kushner mentions very by his reflexive book, by his empathetic approach to answer the questions or to justify the suffering for the good peoples also. Now, always if we try to understand what is the impact of the Harold Kushner's book on the people, the first impact is very empathetic approach. Now, he doesn't try to give his answers or reflection from the theological debate. Now, this is the reasons for the suffering also, but he's tried to give the answer to the, we could say, the answers for the emotional and spiritual survival also. Now, second approach. Now, we should not focus those things which is uncontrollable. We have to focus those we can control it, whether we are facing the injustice, whether we are having in a totally grief situation, then compensate, be in a community and control those things what we can control. For that purpose, we have to understand God give us some tools also. And if you understand these tools, if you understand the strength given by the God, even in a pain situation, even in a suffering situation, definitely we know the meaning, how to cope with the suffering also. Therefore, the two impact for the readers from this book is his empathetic approach. that is instead of the going for the theological belief, he guide to the emotional and the we could say the spiritual survivor. And second point, he clearly mentioned we have to focus his experience. He addresses to focus on what we can control. And these are the two quote I would like to share with from his book. These are the quote of the Hannah Kushner. I don't want to deviate from the quote. The first quote is, pain is the price we pay for being alive. Therefore, we have to understand this is a natural law, and love and loss are the two sides of the same coin. This is the first quote from his book, Harold Kushner. And second quote, when bad thing happens to the good people, second quote is, God's job is not to make us rich, healthy, or comfortable. It is to make us strong in broken places also. Now, and the last part of this, the journey of this video is the 10 lessons I would like to put in very objective form. First is, suffering is not the punishment, it is a natural order. Second point, life is inheritably unpredictable, but we have to be understand the meaning in it. Third point, God's role is compensation, not control. We have to understand which tools God's provided us. Third point, the importance of meaning. Even in the pain, we have to understand the process. Healing is a part of that process. And fourth one, resilience comes from the faith in community. We have the faith in such a fashion, maybe the supernatural, maybe the God, and definitely we have to believe in the compassionate and the community. And the next 5 lessons is, let go of the need for the answer. Don't find the answer of the why or justification behind the calamities. Also focus on what we control. Already we just studied it. Eighth point, human connection. Is the community is the best way to help our sufferings. Be with someone when he or she suffer. And the ninth, God works through the people. Through our calamity, we have to understand whatever the solace we get, it is a solace by the people provided by the God. It is Harold Kushner's his reflection in his book. And last, embrace the life fragility. If you understand life is a fragile, definitely fleeting encourages us. We have to cope with the lives also. These are the 10 lessons given by the Harold Kushner in his book, When Bad Things Happens to the Good Peoples also. If you believe this insight and this lessons is definitely resonant with us, with you, definitely don't forget to share the like and subscribe such type of the insights with your friends also. And as my request, let's have it together to inspire like-minded people as like you and me. Dhanyavad.